Welcome to Bloodbath & Beyond. Today we review Halloween 2018. Face your fate.
Directed by David Gordon Green, starring Jamie Lee Curtis, Judy Greer, Andi Matichak, and James Jude Courtney, this movie is a direct sequel to the original Halloween. It's 40 years after the babysitter murders. Laurie Strode, who survived the attack, has been training and waiting for Michael to come home. Laurie's now a grandmother and she'll do anything to protect her family. So what do we like? Firstly, this movie captures the Halloween essence. It feels like a Halloween movie. The music is definitely what's gonna initially set the tone, obviously helmed by John Carpenter himself, as well as his son Cody. And it's really cool because you hear, the classic tunes that you know, but then they kind of screw with it and they play with the tempo and they change it up depending on the situation.
I also feel as though they really did a good job to make the fans happy, because there's a lot in this movie that they make nods to, including situations that you'll get to relive, even though it's like 40 years later. They're still doing like the same type of shots that you're used to in the first one. They're doing the same setup. Plus you have some familiarity with the characters. We've got a whole new cast of teenagers, and even though they're new to the whole situation, it does kind of feel like you're watching Halloween 1 as the movie's going along.
You've got your sheriff, you've got your new Loomis, and you've got Jamie Lee Curtis, of course, coming back to reprise her role as Laurie, and she's a badass. It's great to see that she's been practicing to kill Michael Myers. It looks like she's been cooped up and just going nuts by herself, and that's pretty much the case.
You know who has aged well though? Michael. He was looking great.
Yeah, Michael Myers was beastly too. It's kind of a neat concept to have him just like super old. He's kind of like graying, he's got a bald spot, and you just know that like he's also been thinking about Laurie for 40 years and he's ready to go to town.
And he did go to town. There was a pleasant surprise of on-screen kills in this movie, and they catch you off guard.
There's a ton of different characters. Even though they don't all have a ton of screen time, you are able to connect with them. Even if it's only through a few lines of dialogue, almost everybody feels like they're really important. And so when they die, it makes an impact. Going back to the cinematography, I really enjoyed it. Like John mentioned, they use similar shot types, but they also have like nice steady cam work following Michael through a neighborhood on Halloween. What is more Halloween feeling than that? What's also a surprise is the comedy that worked in this movie. There's a few scenes where you're actually gonna be like laughing out loud, specifically with Julian, this little boy who's being babysat by Vicky. He's hilarious.
I felt if they didn't have like a kid who was being babysat on Halloween, it just wouldn't have that same feel. So it was a nice touch.
Now, what didn't we like?
Even though this film had really strong cinematography and it did a good job creating its own and recapturing the original, I was disappointed in the lack of POV shots. You want to see what's going on through Michael's eyes, and that's what also can build the tension. And this film didn't really have that many POV shots.
And I don't know that I loved that we saw him in every scene. He wasn't hiding in the shadows. There's no scenes that are really gonna catch you off guard with him jumping out, because unfortunately the couple jump scares that are in this film are in the trailer.
And it's really disappointing too, because a lot of the tension is lost with not knowing where Michael is. You want those POV shots to make it seem as though it's Michael looking at him, but then you get a fake out and it's just one of the friends. Or you actually have no idea where he is. Whether you see like a quick shot of him like standing in the street, and then when they turn back to do the double take and he's gone, it's those kind of things that can build that suspense. There's something about the pacing that just doesn't feel right in this movie.
There's a lot of trying to make everybody really important. While doing that, things get lost in the shuffle. Like there's party sequences, family dinners, there's a lot of different scenes, and they kind of like all blend together, and nothing substantial happens in many of them. Thankfully, we do have a pretty strong final act, but because of all those other scenes and the lack of tension, most of this movie, you kind of know exactly how it's playing out. You know that Michael has to get out of this compound, and you know he has to go and look for Laurie. And of course, he's going to find Laurie and there's going to be a showdown. You already knew what the acts were going to be, and I think that sucks. I hate knowing anything about a movie, but unfortunately this is one of those movies that is shoved down your throat every 2 seconds, whether it's every single video on my sub feed talking about it, showing pictures from it, everyone on Twitter and Instagram constantly posting pictures. You already know when Michael's gonna get his mask, you know how he's getting out of the asylum. There's too much online. And we're perpetuating this by using all of those same clips to hide all my edits. But this is how the internet is now. So a lot of the tension is lost simply because it was over-marketed.
You find yourself just waiting for these moments to happen instead of actually enjoying the film.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a paint by numbers. All right, again, not spoiling anything, and I'm just gonna make one statement. I didn't like the ending. It was super lackluster. People are gonna love it. People are gonna hate it. I'm in more of the hate camp, but it is what it is. Let's move on to our final thoughts and ratings. This is one of the few movies that I was overly pumped for. And I am glad that Blumhouse were the ones behind it because they were able to throw a lot of money at it and make it feel like a true Halloween movie. Michael is super badass. Jamie Lee Curtis is back. And her family is equally as strong as Laurie is. I love the soundtrack and the cinematography, but unfortunately, this definitely does seem like it's just by the books. Like, you know every single moment that's going to happen in this movie before you even watch it. The lack of tension was a huge problem. You're not waiting for Michael to pop out most of the time because you can see him almost all of the time. And again, I think that was a really big misstep, although a lot of people are going to enjoy this movie for that aspect because you get to see a lot of Michael. But I just don't think that was the right way to go with it. I also really didn't like the ending, and a lot of movies hinge on how they end. So I'm gonna give this 3 dumbass journalists waving a Michael Myers mask in front of Michael Myers out of 5.
Horror fans are one of the hardest people to please. To take a franchise like Halloween and try and do a direct sequel, it's a big risk. I felt as though Blumhouse and everyone did a great job with paying respect to the franchise. Michael is great. Jamie Lee Curtis is great. The film itself does a great job with the nods to other films within the franchise that you can have fun with. But overall, the pacing is just really not there. There's not a lot of tension. You see Michael throughout most of the movie. It has a strong final act, but the closing shot is just not as impactful as you thought it would be. It's not the best, but I did enjoy watching it, and it could have been a lot worse. So with that being said, I'm gonna give this film 3 fist filled with teeth out of 5.
As always, thank you for watching. Like this video and comment below with your thoughts on the film if you've seen it. If you haven't and you do want to check it out, it is in theaters right now. And if this is your first time here, make sure you subscribe to the channel, stay updated with everything Bloodbath and beyond.